And so that was my introduction. How about you? What was yours?
I'm pretty sure that I heard about open source or the term that we use in Hungarian, because I'm from Hungary, so that's my first language. But I don't think I ever really realized what that meant in practice before I actually got in contact with a community. So that was when I was working for Ericsson, of all companies. And I started at Ericsson to work on a test project, and didn't really that didn't really excite me as much as I thought it would. So I heard that there is a new project starting in the virtualization and cloud area, and I really liked that technology area back in university. So I was like, okay, virtual machines, I've heard of that before. So that must be more fun. And I joined that project, and then I was told that there is this cloud software. It's called OpenStack, and I think it was the Grizzly Folsom or Grizzly release 10 years ago. And so we were told that this is what we will be using as the base for the telecom cloud platform that our team and department was working on at that time. And then I also learned that, okay, OpenStack is an open source project. Cool. Whatever that means, right? I remember that once I learned, and we all learned in the team, that open source means that there are people working for different companies or employed by different companies who are all working on this big set of software projects called OpenStack, then things really became interesting, at least to me, because I am an introvert and I'm also kind of a shy person. And jumping into an open source community with hundreds or rather thousands of developers working on it per release cycle, which is 6 months, probably not a place for an introvert shy person. And at the same time, I'm also really competitive and ambitious. So you can only imagine what might go down in my brain on a daily basis because of these different, very conflicting characteristics. Not always a nice place, but it really did help me to just get into the middle of it. And when it comes to really getting involved, I remember going to Portland for the OpenStack Summit in 2013. That was my first overseas trip, first time in the US, and it was a big conference. I don't think I've been to a conference that size before. And the conference had the usual conference parts in terms of presentations, panel discussions, and the regular conference session things, as I learned since then that this is what conferences do. And it also had something that was called Design Summit, which was sessions behind really big curtains. And that was a space that was dedicated to developers, and well, not necessarily just developers, but anybody who was doing anything within the project teams, who was working on software, documentation, testing, whatever that goes into making a project work. And I remember going back there and not understanding a single thing that was going on. But what I did understand is, or was, the team dynamics in terms of who does what in the project team that I knew that I will have to get involved in, because again, that was the software component that my team at Ericsson was set to work on. So it only made sense to make sure that we all do understand what's going on the open source side and that little project team who's working on the code, because everyone assumed that at some point we want to change something or fix something. And I did get the understanding very early on that those changes are not something that you want to do locally in your environment, because if that's the only place where the fix exists, then whatever happens upstream, that will not fit together. And it is something that just seems so trivial. But when it comes to the product life cycle, the time to market, and all these kind of challenges of we have to fit that open source component into something that has a different timeline, it's not as trivial as it looks. But at that time in Portland, the only thing that my colleagues who were also, a few colleagues who were there and myself, we were only tasked with to just figure out what the heck is going on. And I think we went home and we said that we have no idea, but it was really busy. That's kind of how far we got in reality. But I did have a few people in mind who were like, okay, I know who the project lead is. I kind of saw a few people who seemed to be really nice to, well, both people in the team and people who they didn't know yet. So people who would mentor a newcomer, and you just kind of figure out the environment and see who you would ask on the community's communication channels. For OpenStack, that was IRC. These days, more communities like to hang out on places like Matrix or Slack or you name it. And it's, if that's the first place where you go, like, okay, how do I even ask a question? Like, who do I talk to? What's going on? So I was really lucky because I could go to the conference and at least kind of starting to find the people.